Smash has had a ridiculous amount of controversies. You know, the moments that weren't family-friendly enough to stay in the game? Or the broken mechanics that, well, caused some rage, shall we say? Or sometimes it's just as simple as who gets chosen for the roster. This is a watch party inside of Nintendo's New York City store. The next Smash fighter is about to be revealed, and with it, one of the biggest Smash controversies of all time. We just got Banjo, Terry, but this time, something feels different. Series director Masahiro Sakurai starts the event by saying,
"Even if you say, that's not the character I was picturing, I hope you don't have any hard feelings."
Okay, kinda weird, they don't normally do that, and well, we soon found out why. Look, the roster's only got so many spots. Fire Emblem's already got way more representation in Smash for how big of a series it is. It's got more fighters than Zelda. Byleth joining the roster as yet another anime swordsman from this series was seen to many as a slap in the face. 8 fighter slots in the game is the same as Pokemon. This receiving some of the most, really reaction from some of the most die-hard Nintendo fans out there. Online reaction being disgustingly bad. The reveal video would get dislike bombed hard. The most disliked video in Smash history within an hour of being released. Nintendo PR, Sakurai, people who simply disliked Fire Emblem receiving death threats online. Death threats. I get being pissed at a character you don't want, being in DLC that most people paid for up front. But I think there's a line between that and I will kill you, no? What you may not realize though is this is only the beginning of one of the most controversial years in Smash history. A year where Nintendo would actually fight back. But before that, there's still something bothering me about this. For Sakurai to start the reveal of content they are selling to people, stuff people are supposed to be excited for, with damage controlling measures like this, shows Nintendo knew fans could react like this. It was almost expected. Like there's something really, really bad that's happened before. Smash 64 paved the way for the rest of the series. It's the framework which all subsequent installments would follow. Any nasty behavior from fans you should be able to trace back to this game, right? And you know what? After some digging, I found there were reports of angry letters being sent to Nintendo back in the day. An old rumor had it that Pit from Kid Icarus, Sigurd from Fire Emblem, as well as the Pokemon Meowth and Mew were going to be playable in the game, and well, with the internet not exactly being in the state that it is today, it wasn't as simple for them to be confirmed or completely debunked. While I don't got much of a clue for the first two, for the latter two Pokemon, it's quite possible they were visible in pre-release material for the game, since they did get in as Pokeball Pokemon. This could be said for separate rumors for King Dedede to be playable as well. He appears in the background of the Dreamland stage, a character actually confirmed by Sakurai himself to have been in the development for the game before getting cut at the last minute. When online video began to be a thing, this likely got even worse. Videos claiming to unlock Master Hand by spinning the control stick over and over for 30 times on the select screen. While we know now the only way to actually play as Master Hand is with a cheating device, back then, how could you 100% deconfirm it without trying it out yourself? And wasting the countless hours. But come on, certain rumored characters not actually appearing in the game couldn't have been that bad of a reaction, right? After all, can't we just mod in some more? This modding scam took the Smash community by storm. Smash Overload, started by modder Aaron Kamara, promised 12 new characters and 8 brand new stages, breathing new life into this classic Nintendo title if they reached the $10,000 Kickstarter goal that was set. Still though, despite the lofty goal, the prospect of this did get many excited. There wasn't much like it at the time. But something seemed off with this one. Mods like Smash Remix would later put in much more high-quality content for completely free. This one wanting 10 bans never ended up delivering at all. People were scammed, and this wasn't the last time something like this would be done in Smash history. For now though, best to stay away from the pay-to-mod department of the community. Let's stick with the content actually in the game itself, appreciated most by Smash 64's competitive scene. That can't be as controversial. Well, I guess the sunshine and rainbows weren't going to be lasting forever. TACNA 2014 rolls around, the game's biggest yearly tournament in Peru, where players Super Boomfan and Gerson would duel it out in an over 52-minute game. This would see the two players on Hyrule Castle stall, and stall, and stall, 24 straight minutes where neither player touched the other. The longest game ever in tournament history. and this would spark a visceral reaction by the scene. By mid-2015, not one, not two, but 3 of the 4 previously tournament-legal stages, and a 5th that was sometimes allowed for counterpicks, were all widely banned. Finished. Many fans seeing this as a long time coming, a way to finally prevent matches like this from happening in the future. But others were like, this game's been around for 15 years and we're changing it now? A game with a smaller competitive scene to begin with, which already had such little stage variety as is, and now we're gonna rip that all away, leaving it with only just 1 legal stage and only a few top-of-the-charts characters to choose from, completely reshaping the competitive scene. Was this really the only option? While many have gotten used to this over the last decade, many have not. It's been quite controversial to say the least. But if it wasn't for a bit of censorship that happened way back when the game first launched, this may have been the first and last Smash game of all time. Nintendo could have gotten sued. You know the beam sword item, right? A totally original Nintendo creation that we've never seen anywhere else. Well, yeah, it seems like they stole more than just the idea for Smash 64. In the Japanese version of the game, they seem to use a low-quality rip of the exact lightsaber sound effect from the movies. But internationally, it would get changed to more of a distinct, original sound. If you're Nintendo, what other options do you really got, right? Either improve the sound quality, making it cleaner, and we could get into hot legal trouble with one of the biggest film franchises in the world, or we just make a brand new sound effect. Smash 64 has had some controversies for sure, but we certainly haven't gotten to those 2020 death threat levels yet. I'm gonna throw this game in the D tier on the controversies tier list, because just from this, is there really a need to huge damage control like Sakurai did here? I don't really think so. The next series title, Melee, on the other hand, oh god, where do we start? I could start with the censorship here, cause oh, do we have some doozies. I think Melee's trophies prove that Japan just doesn't care at all. Text saying that Mario was 26 years old got taken out internationally, same with a description mentioning how Yoshi doesn't have a biological sex. Why keep these details a secret now, Nintendo? Hey, at least these trophies got to stay in the game in some way. This is Tomagon from the game Devil's World. You may not know about him though, and that's a little bit weird because he did get a trophy in Melee. Well, not for every region it seems. Nintendo seemed to think nobody would know about this guy outside of Japan because his trophy is only available in that version of Melee, even though the game was released in Europe as well. Strange decision to cut this. There's been other Japanese exclusives that appear in all versions too, making me think they just completely forgot about this little guy. Poor Tomagon. While there may have been a wee bit of controversy for the incomplete trophies, we haven't gotten that deep into it yet. This one mechanic broke competitive Melee. After a certain percent, the opponent cannot break out a Popo's grab and will continuously get hit by Nana, a technique known as wobbling. Something this powerful, almost always leading to a KO, would have to lead to ban action for the Ice Climbers, right? Well, for a game that came out in 2001, it took all the way until 2019 till some bigger tournaments would lay down the law. This infinite combo would get banned, but like the Smash 64 situation, it caused some controversy because why are we waiting all the way till now to change things up? Those Smash 64 callbacks don't stop here though. Melee's Congo Jungle 64 stage was at one point considered to be a legal counterpick in tournaments. Until this game happened. While not hitting our lovely 52-minute mark, players Rock Croc and Pink Shinobi would be incredibly stally. A situation like this being allowed, where a player gets a stock lead and is so freely able to kill the clock to take the W, caused a lot of controversy, and would lead to the stage's wide ban soon after. But hey, at least these guys were playing by the rules. The Super Pichu cheating scandal shook the Melee community in 2016. A player named Chaos miraculously dominated tournaments with a notoriously weak character, Pichu. Win after win after win, this crazy success with a character this trash earned the Super nickname, and justifiably so. But then suspicion began to arise. For one, Chaos was insistent on using his game setup. He had to be in one specific controller port. Okay, I mean, some people are superstitious in these types of things, maybe it was just a weird quirk, but then the numbers started to roll in. Chaos's Pichu was secretly being buffed. Hidden pretty well, but this rigged version of the game didn't last forever. Chaos would be banned from tourneys going forward, and was forced to return all of his won prize money. The right call for sure, but what now? In the future, all hardware and software has got to be looked at with precise scrutiny. In these offline tournaments, who knows what could happen next? So weird how a game could be this broken in so many different ways, that it could be seamlessly modded to the core and not be very noticeable to the casual player. until you look into the bleak story of Melee's development. Melee's lightning-fast development left a mark on the game's legacy, both good and bad. Rushed to meet deadlines, the development team worked tirelessly, sacrificing holidays, working weekends to bring this game to fruition in just 11 short months. It's a testament to their dedication that Melee even saw the light of day. However, this rush did result in a game with its fair share of glitches and imbalances, setting the stage for scandals like this. Other Smash games, shall we say, have had an opposite scenario occur, as we'll get to in a second. But the broken state of Melee is why it's still being pushed to the 20XX perfection by the competitive scene today. A scene so dedicated that they need a special controller for optimal performance. Introducing the Smash Stick, a more traditional arcade-type controller promised in a Kickstarter campaign in 2017 to revolutionize Melee, providing the premium experience for players. They crushed the 55,000 goal set, over 120k raised, until the scam went dark. Years and years would go by, but in 2020, the Smash Stick made a bold comeback. Now labeled with a $250 price tag for general fans, it looks like the people who invested were finally going to get the product that they wanted, a little bit later than expected, but hey, better late than never. Yet here we are in 2024, and the Smash Stick has yet to materialize. The people who invested were scammed once again. And this was a lot more public than the Smash Overload one. Here we get our first slight taste of this insane 2020 for Smash Bros., but that's not even scratching the surface. There's one more Melee scam I need to talk about, and one of the biggest Nintendo attacks on the community I've ever seen. We have a scene with such an emphasis on local play, but with a worldwide shutdown, all of that would be put to a halt. Enter Slippy. This emulator allowed matches to take place online with a way better connection than ever thought to be possible. Virtually the same as playing in person on console. This was the way people could continue the grind to 20XX during the pandemic, and yeah, Nintendo shut it down. This would send shockwaves throughout the community. Free Melee would become a worldwide trend. The fanbase would try to fight back, but Nintendo held their ground. Regardless of the moral implications of shutting down something that Nintendo themselves are not providing any alternative service for, it was their right to do so, and it was done. And it makes you wonder, why would Nintendo take this harsh of a stance? You'd think they would have some understanding with the worldwide circumstances. Certain other online emulators have got to stay up, like imagine how different the competitive Pokemon scene would be without a simulator like Showdown. But for the Smash community, the hammer got laid down right away. This happened in 2020, the same year as the Byleth backlash. Melee's had a lot of controversies in the past, enough for me to throw it in the A tier. Is Nintendo retaliating because of all this? Man, I don't know. I think there has to be more here. We've got a lot of 2020 still to fill in. One question that came to my mind through this was Nintendo directly intervening with the competitive scene. These other controversies so far happened without their involvement. Has something like this happened before? And well, when I started looking into our next Smash game, Brawl, I found something quite interesting. When you say Major League Gaming or MLG, I normally think of Call of Duty and things like that. While I mostly prefer a real man's type shooter, it piqued my curiosity when they would dip into the competitive Brawl scene in 2010. A bunch of MLG hosted tourneys would span the eastern side of the US this year. Sounds cool, except if you weren't there, you couldn't watch them. Nintendo would ban live streaming of this event, severely limiting its publicity. So this shows even back then they still had strict policies on this type of thing. This, combined with a weird incident involving players Mewtwo King and ADHD, are commonly cited as to why MLG would drop Brawl completely going forward, severely hurting the competitive scene. But this may not have even been the biggest Brawl controversy. The Ices are back this time, and while a little bit different than the Melee version of wobbling, they still came with an infinite chain grab that could guarantee a KO if properly performed. But that's not all. Meta Knight famously slid into this game as probably the most infamous broken character in Smash history. This topic's been covered to death, but if you're not familiar, just know this. Pretty much everything that makes a Smash fighter competitively great, this guy had. And it got controversial. In 2011, the Unity Rule Set Committee of tournament organizers suggested a new standardized rule set, the key suggestion in here though being a complete ban of this character. They held a poll to see if people wanted to ban him, and it actually won the majority of votes, but it didn't reach the 75% supermajority needed to completely get rid of a character. and as such, Apex, the most widely participated in tournament at the time, opted not to use this new rule set. Many top pros who mained Meta Knight also said that they just wouldn't attend the tournaments where he was banned, so this protest also kinda made sure the nail stayed in the coffin. If you didn't like this character centralization, you were kinda screwed, but that's if you even wanted to watch competitive Brawl anyway. The game itself is controversial coming from its predecessor. Where Melee was fast and full of a bunch of crazy broken mechanics to exploit, Brawl was slow, dragging, and had a mechanic where you could just randomly trip and fall down. That's competitive right there. This may be a controversial statement, but to me, this being a sign of Nintendo already starting to distance themselves from the competitive Smash scene, making the game more casual friendly. They had plenty of time to fine-tune this gameplay style as Brawl would actually be delayed during its development, but this was for one key reason: Sonic. As much as the internet would explode when characters like Steve get added to the roster, as we'll see coming up, in 2007 there was a great reaction to another character joining the roster as well. Already receiving a great reaction, the 2006 reveal of Solid Snake joining the roster was greatly exceeded in the year that followed it. Sonic would be shown off in October 2007, making everyone extremely excited, except for probably Sakurai. By all accounts, Sonic was a very last-minute addition to the game. Brawl would have to be delayed just to accommodate him, which would explain the, shall we say, lackluster moveset for the character, which still lingers to this day, don't get me started on that. But hey, maybe this was all worth it to get one more iconic character in the roster. There just wasn't as much excitement when fans actually bought the game and find out there was one iconic character left out. Fan favorite Mewtwo from Melee would get completely cut from the roster this time around. No unlockability or anything. He seemingly got replaced with a spiritual successor character in Lucario. They got some moveset similarities, and Lucario was the popular new 4th gen mascot at the time, but man, this didn't go over well with fans. Nintendo practically forced to bring him back in the following entry. But hey, at least everything that did get into the game was present in all versions this time around, well, except for the Masterpieces section. Man, I miss when these were a thing. Back in the day, you used to get to demo some retro Nintendo titles right in Smash. It was integrated right there. It was awesome, unless you were outside of Japan and wanted to play some JRPGs. The demos for New Mystery of the Emblem and Earthbound of all things would be taken out internationally. Why? What if I wanted to try Earthbound before sliding into the eShop? It's not like the game is Japan exclusive. One other bit of regional change involved the Trophy of Lyn from Fire Emblem. The Japanese description of her lists her age as 15, but internationally this would be changed to 18. Nintendo being sneaky with the changes back there, watch out, I see you. See, with all this controversy going on in the Brawl days, you'd think we should document this, you know? Have some really professional movie-like feature film. Melee had one, so why not for its successor? Smash 3 would be a documentary on the era of Brawl and the early days of Smash 4 produced by Fultz. And yeah, that name would turn out to have a bit more meaning than first thought. A Kickstarter beginning in early 2016 had its goal crushed to the tune of over $9,000. This would seem to promise a doc better than ever before seen for the series, and yeah, it turned out to be a falsehood after all. Following mid-2017, we'd slowly start to lose updates on the project, and by the end of 2022, an announcement of a full-on cancellation finally happened. Man, we can't really go a Smash entry without some sort of Kickstarter scam, huh? Brawl was a disjointed time between Nintendo and the competitive community for sure. While not quite reaching Melee levels to me, I still feel we gotta throw it in the B tier at least for its controversies. Well, that is unless you include the Project M stuff. This mod changed everything about Brawl. Gone was the slow, plodding gameplay, the centralizing, broken character. This was the Smash game many would dream of. Well, not if Nintendo could say anything about it. Following its release in 2011, Project M would incur a number of issues. While Nintendo wouldn't publicly say anything about this, to say there wasn't something going on behind the scenes would be quite naive. After taking the competitive community by storm, even being picked up by Apex, there would be a surprising sudden announcement in late 2014 that the game would be completely dropped from the 2015 edition of the event. Wonder why. Later that year, VG Bootcamp, another high-profile distributor, announced that they wouldn't be streaming the game at their event anymore either. Behind the scenes, the game was slowly dying. And not because of a lack of fan support, because of something else. And I don't think it takes going full tinfoil hat to understand why. Development of game updates would cease by December of that year. The game's story would officially be over. But funnily enough, 5 whole years later, in 2020 of all years, more information would come to light. An anonymous twitlonger would allege Nintendo's involvement in all of this, that they even reached out to Twitch to halt the distribution of the game entirely, attempting to remove content about it from the platform. Okay, Siiroth, this is just one post on the internet, not everything has to be true, but Nintendo shuts down another Smash Bros. Tournament. Just months after the Slippy ban, Nintendo would lay down the law, this time for an offline tournament. The event Riptide was set to feature a mod called Project Plus, a spiritual successor to Project M, this requiring an actual disc of Brawl to play on. Again, a legitimate copy of the game Nintendo used to sell, and this tournament would still get shut down. There's been no way to play Brawl online since 2014. This tourney wasn't even online anyway. What is the deal here? Again, this coming shortly after our 2020 conundrum. What's really going on? But at least now we're creeping closer and closer to that answer, and Smash 4 may be our most likely game to get it. This game is interesting in that it's the first in the series where the strength and power of characters can be changed and modified with updates throughout the game's life. The door now wide open to shout and harass Nintendo to make the changes you want, and what a surprise, this started right away. A whole movement to get Greninja nerfed when the game first launched, and Nintendo responded hard. The nerf Greninja movement kinda turning into a meme afterwards, as Gren was not doing anything at all after Nintendo clapped him up. The DLC for Smash 4 eventually came around, and oh god, where do we start? Final Fantasy's Cloud Strife would be one of the craziest additions to the series of all time. Like seriously, what the hell? For the double scene in competitive Smash 4, he wasn't exactly appreciated by everyone though. The only thing Cloud really lacks in his recovery, you can make up for now with a character like Pikachu or Sheik being paired with him, creating such a nasty combo to the point where some were considered to be banned from the format. He was that good. But hey, at least Doubles is on a slightly smaller scale in terms of scope. When Bayonetta came in, oh, this was a whole nother deal. Having the best recovery in the game by far, almost impossible to fight off stage, which time allowing for insane combos, some even 0 to death scenarios, all getting stronger when she was losing with Hyper Sense. She was the closest thing to a ban-worthy character since Brawl Meta Knight, some regions even doing a full-on ban. Patch 1.16 would attempt to nerf Bayonetta, but even after that she was still the best character by a good margin. Tournaments being filled with Bayo-on-Bayo matchups, driving away viewership, leading to one of the most controversial matches of all time. EVO 2018 sees players Captain Zack and Lima meet in the grand finals. Fans booing every single Bayonetta player all tournament long, just for using the best tool that they had available. And they were gonna respond. Starting the match by memeing, stalling, homie stocks, all that to get back at the reaction, and this would cause a lot of controversy. When pros look back on the situation now, it's generally considered that she should have been banned from competitive play. The scene was just too hesitant to do it with Smash Ultimate right around the corner. A decision that's likely one of the main factors for why we never see competitive Smash 4 events linger as much as other older games to this day. Bayonetta caused controversy outside of the competitive scene too. I don't know if we've seen a character to this point that gets this much hate for just existing. In 2015, Nintendo announces the Fighter Ballot for Smash 4's DLC. You get to vote for who you want, the character with the most votes gets in. Pretty simple, but also seemingly too good to be true. At the end of the day, when Bayonetta was eventually revealed as the ballot winner, many suspected something was up. Nintendo said at the time that she was number 1 out of all conceivable fighters, and actually the number 1 requested in Europe straight up. I mean, that could be believable, like if Iron Man beat her out in the polls, then maybe they couldn't add him, but when time began to pass and the data mines for Smash 4 became a bit more sophisticated, fans began to notice something. Placeholder files that would go on to be used in Bayonetta's character were found to have existed all the way back to the game's 1.06 patch, which was only released 2 weeks after the ballot got announced. Fast forward to 2021 and Sakurai would spill the tea on what was really going on here. The highest requested character for the ballot in reality would be Sora, with the remaining high picks being used in consideration for the other playable characters in Smash Ultimate. That's all well and good, listening to what the fans want here. But then why lie and pretend that Bayonetta was actually the winner when almost everyone knew it was complete BS? Kinda like Nintendo's public reasoning for not allowing Miis to be played online. Yeah, seems weird now, but back then, the ability to use Mii fighters in online play would be disabled when playing against someone you don't know. There was definitely fear for certain designs that players may go up against, they could be inappropriate, but excluding them entirely? That's a bit much, especially when Sakurai gave a different, official reasoning back then. We don't want online play to become a copyright free-for-all, and it's probably not as fun to play against someone using a character based on someone you may not know. Well, at least they changed their stance nowadays. Something else that's changed are the amiibo. When these first came out and the Toys to Life genre was poppin', the collecting craze was everywhere. But back then, I guess cause a lot more were being produced at once, we came out with a lot looking really rough, some manufacturing errors. Some would go on to be pretty valuable rare items, others like, come on, what is this, man? When you're talking in-game details, Smash 4's got a lot of the other game's tropes too. Fire Emblem has a cut masterpiece for some reason, but in some ways I feel Smash 4 tops the other games. Yeah, we've got censorship and trophies from region to region, like Palu's dress getting lengthened, but one trophy I found in the files of Smash 3DS didn't get into any region. This one of Tharja was seen to be a bit too revealing. Hate to bring up Bayonetta again, but her appearance in Smash, as scantily clad as is still much toned down from her original games. Censorship always seems to be controversial, but one of the more unique cases with Smash 4 specifically was with Cloud. Seems weird now, we've got a lot more in the game, but back when Smash 4 first launched, there were only 2 Final Fantasy music tracks in the game. I get Cloud might have been a difficult get, but wow, if you had any doubt. Smash 4 is going to go in the C tier for me. It has some moments for sure, but nothing to answer what I've been looking for. Why does Nintendo have such a hatred for the hardcore Smash scene? Is this really all a coincidence? Just over a couple of things? Well, I guess we still got one shot left to find out. Something I never realized in the moment was really how much censorship Smash Ultimate has in it compared to pretty much every other Smash game. I've made a full video about this if you want to see everything, but some of the big highlights include Mr. Game & Watch needing to get patched even before the game released because of a Native American headdress being present on one of his attacks, Mai Shiranui not being able to appear in the game at all, not even as a spirit, not a background character, nothing, purely because of her appearance being too revealing. Makes you wonder what they do for the revealing characters that they really did want to add into the game, and now you get situations like this. A completely new design for the character introduced just to accommodate Smash Bros. Ratings requirements. From pretty much of all cases of blood getting taken out, to all signs of Disney characters getting cut from Sora's stage, to all signs of Steve's meat getting cut loose, and so much more, Smash Ultimate has a lot of controversy even before we touch the competitive scene. Oh, why'd I have to say that? We'd have to wait till the DLC phase for Smash Ultimate before any incredible balance controversy was noticed, but Hero certainly lit up some eyeballs. Not only did he debut with some crazy powerful moves, RNG dependent sure, but still in his kit, the big concern for the scene was the language barrier. If you don't know, Hero's whole gimmick is that there's this menu that pops up with 4 special moves that he can access. However, it's not just you that can see these can be read and understood by your opponent, well, if the two of you speak the same language at least. They seriously should have added icons or something to make it simpler, but this was controversial and seen as an issue for some time, but as more new toys would come in and people started to figure Hero out a little bit more, this dilemma would slowly fade away, allowing us to finally arrive at Nintendo's 2020. The Hero news kinda dies off with the introduction of Byleth. Go into March and the whole world shuts down, fans not hearing about Smash until May when Min Min gets revealed. And you may not remember this, but there was some controversy here too. There was some backlash out there concerning representation at this time, some feeling that Twintail should have gotten the spot over Min Min. She wasn't the mascot of the game anyway. A type of backlash I don't think Nintendo was really expecting. When she dropped, there wouldn't be any competitive controversy this time around, but I can't say the same for Steve. Dropping in October of this year, and one of the most internet-breaking moments I can remember, fans were split as to how good he was initially. Only for those opinions to get, shall we say, less mixed as the time went on. Fans would go on to discover game-breaking mechanics with this character, where you could avoid getting hit in a so-called phantom state, leading to many tournaments actually banning him entirely. And he wouldn't be the only one to receive this treatment, as we'll see in a little bit. Stepping back for a sec though, we have a couple more events on our timeline now, but I can't really find any one inciting thing. Maybe it's time to give up on this adventure. Maybe there isn't really this big reason I was searching for after all. But hold on a sec. The whole point of this video is finding multiple instances of Smash games being controversial. Maybe the problem was 2020 didn't just have one singular big controversy, it had many. Several real-life accusations of harassment, crimes, nasty behavior of names in the scene both small and large in scale. This coming as a shock to many. I don't really feel it's my place, nor do I want to cover something like this in a more lighthearted type video, but I will say something. We've seen one or two weird incidents here and there. An accusation obviously doesn't guarantee guilt, but we weren't talking one or two situations anymore. We're talking upwards of 100 known competitive players that got outed throughout this year. Incident after incident, friendships shattering. And when something the scene is looking forward to with this Slippy tourney, some small shed of light in this imaginary world to escape the real life darkness emerges, it gets taken all away. You could say Nintendo never wanted to associate with Smash since way back. You could say shutdowns of the mods and the fan backlash to things like a new character being introduced could have them turn a blind eye to this fan base. But I want to throw this possibility out there. The perception of Smash by the mainstream was getting tainted by all of this coming out. The actions of the few, unfortunately, ruining it for everyone. A community that you've got to believe, by and large, isn't like this, but from the perspective of Nintendo the business, something they could not support through thick and thin. Canceling Slippy in 2020, Project Plus in 2021, and the Smash World Tour in 2022. Well, there may actually be a bit more to that last one. Just 2 weeks before one of their biggest tourneys is about to go down, the Smash World Tour gets abruptly cancelled. Their PR immediately blaming Nintendo for all of this. Now, at first glance, this would seem to align with the patterns we've seen. Nintendo shuts down Fan Smash event. But here's the thing, Panda Global actually had a license to run this event. Something else was going on here, and it in large part involved the CEO of Panda, Alan Benet. You see, the Smash World Tour would be part of this whole Panda Cup, a grander tournament with a higher total prize pool collecting a bunch of smaller events together to be part of it. But the way this was done seemed to be the problem. Allegedly, Benet would use his partnership with Nintendo to coerce smaller tournament organizers to join the Panda Cup, threatening that if they didn't, there could be legal action since Panda had the license from Nintendo and they didn't. Join it or cease to exist. It was an ultimatum. The Smash community would react to this news with boycotts, uproar, and it was justified. Following resignations out of protest from Panda employees, Benet would eventually step down. Nintendo's whole involvement in this still in question. But it does seem here that they were trying to stop this whole scheme. Maybe a change of heart? Competitive Smash Ultimate would be on hold, but to some, this might have been a good thing. Kazuya had only debuted the year prior as a DLC fighter, and what seems to be becoming a pattern today, he turned out a lot more broken than first thought. While not as widespread as the Steve ban discussion, starting in early 2022, the talks were there. Supporting a campier and arguably less enjoyable to watch gameplay style with 0-to-death combos and little perceived counterplay, the writing seemed to be on the wall for this. However, opponents did argue that this guy's recovery is doo-doo. And those combos you were talking about are so hard to pull off, they probably wouldn't be an issue to those in high-pressure tournament settings anyway. When looking at other characters who didn't get banned throughout history, this guy just doesn't compare. Funny thing is, if you believe rumors going around from a couple years prior to Kazuya's debut, there's a good chance this guy never would have gotten into the game at all. Before I reveal Ultimate's final ranking, I want to share one more controversy I discovered along this journey, and it may be one of the biggest. Blitzchung is a pro Hearthstone player from Hong Kong. Okay, I promise this is going to be relevant, let me cook. This guy would go on to support and stand up for the Free Hong Kong movement during a live stream in October 2019, and would be severely punished for this by Hearthstone's parent company, Blizzard Entertainment. Blizzard initially banned Blitzchung from tournaments, revoked his prize money, and terminated the contracts of 2 streamcasters involved. The public backlash would ensue, including boycotts, threats, a letter from US Congress members. All led to Blizzard to reduce this punishment, but holy, this was a big deal, making mainstream news and everything. We once again arrived back at Nintendo's New York City store, where they had a big launch event planned for Overwatch 2, another Blizzard Entertainment event around this time. A huge crossover event between Blizzard and the Big N, which shortly after this news would get completely cancelled. How does this relate to Smash? Well, there's a big possibility that during this time, the later characters of Fighters Pass 2 would be in the early development or even just the planning stages. If there was to be any negotiation on a Crash Bandicoot appearance, one for Dante, Spyro, any Activision Blizzard IP that was highly requested in that good old fighter ballot, at this time, it assuredly got the axe. Who knew at this time how long the backlash would last? Even if one of their characters is the perfect fit for the game, if you're Nintendo, how can you comfortably take that risk? Come to find out about the strenuous working conditions from the company getting outed a couple years later, where Nintendo actually had to release a statement, and yeah, I think they might have dodged a corporate bullet here. I thought about the A tier for Ultimate, but man, when you think about the publicity that all these incidents are getting now, the fact that some of the biggest controversies of other games in the series occurred during Ultimate's lifespan, I think we gotta bump it up to the S rank for sure. Controversy and Smash seem to go hand in hand. Some getting a bit more real than I usually like to get into here, but this is just one series. What is the biggest censorship on every Nintendo console? This video I dive into some of the most popular games in Nintendo history, ruining more of your childhood favorites. Whatever happened to playing the game for fun? No, I haven't scripted this or anything, but I just wanted to save it for those of you who stuck around to the very end. Thank you so much, dearly, for 100,000 subscribers. I still can't believe when we started this, like 8 years ago actually now, that we made it this far. Upload schedule is not as frequent as I'd like, that's gonna change, but nevertheless, you guys still come out and support every video, and it really does mean the world to me. I know I'm a faceless guy on the internet with a name you can't pronounce, but it really does mean a lot, and we're gonna have a crazy rest of 2024, I guarantee it. That being said, I don't want to take too much more of your time. Thank you so much for watching, and for 100,000 subscribers, for sure, I'll see you next time.